That's that's the long and short of it. It's actually a really good question. Welcome to yet another installment of HW Alumni Act. Today, we're focusing on the University of Michigan, and we've got a Michigan alum with us, an HW alum, Lauren Neharai. How
Nehrai.
uh,
Nehrai.
Neharai. I won't. I
Close.
think again. Joining us. How you doing, Lauren?
Good. How are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm fantastic. We're excited to have you here. So, of course, we aim to give our students, the parents, and even some of our alums who are freshmen who are thinking about transferring, an overview
hmm
of a lot of HW favored, uh, popular, whatever you want to call it, colleges that we either
hmm
apply to, or we matriculate to. Michigan is certainly one of those, right? Um,
hmm
I guess, Lauren, we can start with maybe a little bit of an intro about yourself. Um, yeah, take the time, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into this conversation.
Of course. So I went to Harvard Westlake and graduated in 2020 and started at the University of Michigan that year. So I graduated high school and started college during the pandemic, which was a very interesting time. Um, I loved Harvard Westlake. I was very involved in the newspaper, the student ambassador program. I played tennis. I was on the ethics team, so I was very involved in different extracurriculars and came back to LA. I now work at Bank of America in their private bank doing wealth management, but definitely had a lot of twists and turns in getting here. Did not think this is going to end up being what I did. I went to the University of Michigan for 4 years, had the best experience, so I'm excited to share a little bit more about it with all of you.
Sure, I'm curious to definitely want to hear about the Michigan. Then the HW Works director in me wants to hear about your professional journey coming out of Michigan. But first, even before we begin, I have a curveball for you. I have a
Uh-huh.
question that isn't on, it's not even on the designated set of questions that you received.
Mhm.
And you may have given a little answer towards at the end. I still think it's important because it reflects a lot. It shows a lot. It is 3:15 Tuesday afternoon. We know you're gainfully employed. We know you got a stellar academic background. Why are you doing this?
Oh,
I
sorry, the lights
know,
are on and off in here.
right? I
Um,
know there's a bunch of other stuff that you could be doing, maybe even should be doing. Why are you doing this?
Definitely. So I think it just kind of goes back to the theme of paying it forward. I feel like one of the most impressive and helpful things about Harvard Westlake is that it helps you way beyond graduation. It helps you for your entire life. So you're part of this community. I've gained a lot from it. I want to give back to it, help others. So that's part of the reason. I also was really involved in the student ambassador program. So
Mhm.
this is kind of a transition into that. I didn't do anything like that at Michigan, but I feel like the whole college process is really complicated. I was an oldest child. I am an oldest child. So I didn't really have that resource of asking an older sibling or someone older about their experience and getting very candid answers. So I want to do that for others.
Sound like great reasons, and we certainly are happy to have you. Why didn't you do the ambassadorship? We used to call it Key Club. Why didn't you do
In
the
college,
ambassador at Michigan?
honestly, I started out in 2020 and it was just not the best
Yeah,
introduction to college. So
yeah.
I got involved in very few things. I was involved in a business club and a magazine, and I joined a sorority, and those just kind of became my three things. I felt like I was an unofficial ambassador, encouraged a lot of people to come, would tour them around on my own time, but I didn't do it through the school.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good enough.
Mhm.
And um that's a full calendar. That's kind of sort of a full schedule you had there with going Greek and being in a publication. That can be a lot in college. And then also, and I'm sure you love Michigan, right? I love that college went
Mhm.
to Penn. I love Penn, but there's nothing you don't get that closeness. I was talking with Mr. Levin, Rob Levin, the other day about,
Mhm.
this my interaction. He was like, and I was wondering why, even those of you who went to elite schools, you use works. One of my questions is always, have you gone to your college career counseling, right? And some most will be like, yeah, they were helpful, but they want to use works. And he said that it's family, right?
Hmm.
Like Harvard Westlake is more family than a college experience. I even think about my high school, and yeah, I'm closer to it than I am
Hmm.
college, right? Even though
Hmm.
obviously college
Hmm.
was probably just as helpful for you, especially get to B of A as HW was. You still, it's that affinity that you have for high school that almost never leaves.
Exactly. Especially now being back in LA and working here. I work in Century City, so within my little clutter of offices, I see Harvard Westlake alumni all the time, every single day. So it's awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, that's fantastic. If you're ready, I am. Let's get into it. Um,
Definitely.
the first question is kind of sort of multifaceted, multi-pronged, if you will. The What was your school or major at Michigan? I think you probably already answered that, but it's okay. We can emphasize it. And then did you know what school or major you were going to have going into college? And if you did, why was Michigan the right choice? And if you didn't know what school or major you were going to choose going into college, why did Michigan end up being the right choice for that school or major? I hope that wasn't
So
too.
I'll preface this. No, yeah, of course, I'll preface this with saying I definitely did not think I would end up at Michigan. At this point in my senior year, it was not even on my radar. I mean, I applied to it because it was an early action school. It was a great school. I'd never visited, and it didn't really seem like I wanted to be in a small town, Midwest. I just didn't think it was for me.
Sure.
Um, I prefer to either stay locally or go into a big city environment like Washington, D.C., New York City, Boston, those kinds of places.
Hmm.
And I got in early action to Michigan,
Wow.
um, very surprisingly because they tend to defer 90% of the applicants. So once that happened, I visited, loved it, still wasn't sold. And then later on in the process, I ended up choosing it, but I didn't go into it as excited as I wished, if that makes sense. It wasn't like my dream school my entire life where it was my first choice. It was nothing like that. Um, and then it grew on me so quickly and so well. I think about it all the time. I'm the biggest Michigan fangirl. So, but to put it bluntly, yeah, I didn't even think I would go there, let alone to know what I would study. So I applied as a poli sci major, not because I was particularly interested in it. It just kind of was one of those things where you don't know what to study. It fit what I did, and that's where I applied. But the way Michigan works is that they do have different schools. So for the business school, for example, you would have to apply to the business school,
Mhm.
but you can also apply to transfer into the business school or minor in the business school once you're already a student there. So that was the route I ended up taking. I applied as a poli sci major into the School of Arts and Sciences. And once you're in the School of Arts and Sciences, there's no just because I applied as a poli sci major didn't mean I had to be one. They kind of just let you choose whichever major is offered in the program, except for two majors that you have to apply into. One of them is called organizational studies. And I would say if you're familiar with NYU, it's similar to Gallatin, where
Yeah.
you basically get to create your own path of study. So it's a super small program, very niche. Um, you can basically just pick classes that you feel like suit your interests. So that's a very cool major. And then the one I ended up doing was a three-part major called PPE, which is
Oh,
philosophy. Yeah,
Michigan. I was
philosophy.
PPE at Penn. Now you
Really?
okay? All
Wow,
right.
it's a small club. So yeah, they have it at Penn,
Yeah.
Dartmouth, Oxford, Michigan. I think it's becoming more popular throughout the US. But for anyone who doesn't know, it's politics, philosophy, and economics, which
Man,
was amazing because you basically get to learn everything. So I didn't know what I wanted to choose, and I got to learn all of it.
I think at
Um,
Princeton they have political economics, which is very, very similar as far as getting
mhm.
that kind of sort of what I call the best of the classical liberal arts education, right? Philosophy.
Exactly. Exactly. And I didn't know, I figured out my major sophomore year. So the way Michigan works in the School of Arts and Sciences is you declare, and across most schools that aren't super niche like architecture, um, you get to decide your major and apply to special programs in your sophomore year. So you basically get your freshman year, test the waters, take fun classes, take serious classes, get all your prereqs out of the way, and then you can apply and commit to certain majors. So I did a bunch of prerequisites. One, because I didn't know if I would get into my major or the business school as a minor. but also because I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I took marketing classes, entrepreneurship classes, some English and creative writing classes, but I ended up getting into that major program and also into the business school as a minor,
Got it.
um, which was really great because I feel like I got exposed to everything I wanted to. And even had I not gotten into those majors and minors, I could still have taken every single class that I did, which is the beauty of Michigan. It's not restrictive in what you could take. I could have taken any art class, any business class. Um, so I definitely felt like, even though my major was really broad, people who had different majors or majors completely unaffiliated to what I did were able to take all the classes. So if someone was a creative writing major but wanted to get a business background, they could take finance and it's no problem at Michigan.
So cool. Um, when did you declare your major? When did you
I
know you?
declared after, so I had a backup major. My backup was poli sci,
Yeah,
and then I
Lauren.
applied to,
We're like spirit animals, like 22 years apart. I was PPE. Literally, I literally did. No, we'll finish. When did you declare? No, that's why I asked. I got declared second semester junior year. Like my advisor like emailed me. She was like,
really.
you still haven't declared a major, right? And I was like, I was like, oh, I need to get on that. And then she was like, well, you technically have enough to be a poli sci major like right now. And I was like, oh, I wanted to be.
Hmm.
And she's like, okay, well, you need to take. It was ridiculous, Lauren. Like I needed to take two classes like my senior year. I already had enough credits to like graduate, but I needed
Hmm.
two more classes for the PPE major, and one was offered first semester, and the other one was offered second semester. But
Hmm.
like I was like, they were like, yeah, you can't like apply for loans of scholarship. You're taking like one class per semester. So I ended up picking up a minor to be able to take the two classes I needed for my major.
That's
But the minor
awesome.
was great. I ended up minoring in women's studies. It was great. But I'm so happy to hear that PPE is still around and still doing it. And you ended up in finance too. You're spirit animals.
Yes.
Right? That's literally what happened. Exact same thing happened to me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so that that is really interesting. Okay, so not even looking to get it. You're going to make some students and parents very jealous, Lauren. A lot of people have dream school. You're like, oh, I backed into it. It's like I didn't even know. It's like, uh, the second one always interests me. Being an East Coaster and then coming to LA, right? And that's about diversity. You guys not only are in LA, which is diverse, you're coming from Harvard Westlake, which is like super diverse.
Exactly. Which is the
Uh,
biggest prestige on my resume to this day.
of course, absolutely, absolutely. I don't doubt it.
Hmm.
Um, Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. How does the diversity compare to HW, LA, and then your classes, particularly? Although you were more classical liberal arts, and generally that ends up being 50-50. You're actually slanted a little bit more towards women. But still some of your econ classes or some of what were the
Hmm.
classes that are traditionally gender imbalanced, how were they in Michigan?
Yeah, so one, I was super thankful for Harvard Westlake for being so diverse itself, because one thing I found in college was that even though the college campus is very diverse, very few people came from high schools that were diverse as well. So most of the people I met came from high schools where everyone looked like them and everyone had the same background as them. So when they're thrown into this very diverse, vibrant community that is Michigan, with people from all over the world and especially all over the country, um, they're very shocked and don't really know how to act, but Harvard Westlake very much prepared me for that. I would say within the School of Arts and Sciences and the business school, which are the two I had the most background in, all my classes were very diverse, in terms of different socioeconomic statuses, ethnic backgrounds, gender. I kind of got a pool of everything. As a woman, I never felt a minority, even if I was one. There was definitely a big presence of female teachers, female speakers, so that was really, really great. Even in extracurricular activities, I was in a big business club, and the president was female for 3 of the 4 years that I was there.
Wow,
So definitely plenty of opportunities.
good, good. How about Ann Arbor? Thoughts on the
I
town?
love Ann Arbor, and I'm
Yeah.
not. a small town type of person at all. Like that's the last, and I really fell in love with the city. It's super charming coming from a big city like LA to go somewhere where everything feels local. Everyone you know lives within your neighborhood. You can walk everywhere. You feel very safe. I could walk there alone at night, and I'm
Mhm.
a very paranoid person, and I would not get scared at all. Um, it felt very much, I don't want to say like a high school, but it felt almost like a boarding school where everyone who's there, everyone who's in the area is involved in school to some capacity.
The school
So
somehow. Yeah.
exactly. So even if they're not a student and not a teacher or a faculty member, they're the biggest Ann Arbor, Michigan fan ever. And there is definitely a big enough city that people don't really realize. So Ann Arbor had everything that someone would need. They have all the supermarkets, they have the stores, they have everything you would need. So the winters are rough, but nothing is unmanageable. And I felt it very charming to be in a place where there's seasons and there's a small town and it's in a different area of the country, especially since it was very fleeting because I had a feeling I would move to LA or if not New York afterwards.
So that's interesting. You're a big city kind of person like I am. But so you knew after college that it was probably going to be LA or New York, one or the other, that you're going to move to. So you were
Hmm.
happy to have the experience. Very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
And it's
Okay.
just a
That
very simple life too. Sorry, just that quick
yeah.
note. It's very simple and everyone's just feels their age and is very focused on school and the school environment and gives back to the community and is involved. So I think it kept a lot of people on the right track.
Nothing but good things about Ann Arbor. Michigan is awesome. I was there this summer. It was great. Um, okay. Now we get into the questions that parents and students particularly
Hmm.
like, the how did you get in questions, right?
Okay.
Question three. Now you got to think back because you're an old timer now. The summer after your sophomore year at Harvard Westlake and the summer after your junior year at Harvard Westlake. So these would be the summers going into your junior year and the summers going into your senior year. What did you do?
The summer going to my senior year, I interned at the Innocence Project,
Uh-huh.
which is a pro bono legal clinic at
At
Loyola Law
Loyola?
School.
Is that
Yes.
Loyola? Yep, very
And
popular.
it was ran by Lori Levinson, whose daughter went to Harvard Westlake and coincidentally Michigan. She was the biggest
Yeah.
Michigan fan to the point that she had the Michigan M painted on her toenails, like
Oh
with nail
wow.
polish. And still, it was still not on my radar. Um,
That's
so
real.
yeah, it's funny how everything works out. But that's what I did going into senior year.
Mhm.
And going into my junior year, I did a summer program in New York at the New York Times.
Ooh, you did the New
So it
York
was
Times program?
I did. And then the summer before that, going into 10th grade, I did an Oxbridge program in Barcelona.
Okay.
Mhm.
So so Lauren, you did the more you were kind of sort of on point. We've had again, I'm neutral either way. I'm just here to help you. But we've had a couple of alums who've done, kind of sort of the informal people at jobs, which I advocate for tremendously.
Mhm.
But you kind of had the more, I would say, Harvard Westlake traditional, maybe
Mhm.
elevated summer experience. You had some really, really prestigious, really good experiences at some really prestigious programs. What that kind of sort of dovetails. Well, what was your most favorite program out of the three? The Oxbridge, the New York Times, and the Innocence Project.
So I would say it's between Oxbridge and the Innocence Project. So Oxbridge was an amazing experience, especially because I wasn't really a sleepaway camp kind of person.
Yeah.
So being able to live abroad and study abroad, with people all from all over the world who, funny enough, I ended up reconnecting with a lot of them in college. I was sitting at a park bench one day outside of class in Michigan, turned to my right, and it was someone from Seattle in my Oxbridge program. Or
Wow.
at my Bank of America orientation, I'm sitting at a table with someone from another department from my Oxford program. So it definitely became very interconnected and I made great connections and learned a lot and had a lot of fun. Um, I would say the Innocence Project was amazing. One, because it's an amazing cause. Two, because it was super applicable to write about in my college experience, as is any job, but I feel like I was actually able to do something here.
Yeah.
So that was really great. And I just love the idea of, driving to work in the morning, working a shift, learning how to work on a team, because those experiences were very valuable as I began to work in more structured roles later on.
Yeah. There's something to be said, and that's interesting about that Innocence Project. I never think about that, but it is kind of sort of a work simulation. There's
Hmm.
something to be said for those where colleges, the elephant in the room. I see a couple students in here now. Um, you can't get that from your GPA. You can't get that from your test scores, having a job, right? Teamwork, reliability, dependability, um, understanding, and probably the biggest thing is understanding that your labor, that your labor has value, and that you need to kind of sort of establish yourself as you move forward. Like you just can't, our classes by and large we have to take, right? Maybe we get to choose a few electives our junior, senior year, but by and large, that's, that path is laid out. When you have a job, it's more or less, it shows that you're taking initiative from college counselors.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the deans echo that as well. Okay. Our next question, and this one has been interesting because it hasn't changed that much as far as the focus when I hear you guys talk about this or answer this question. I'm going to stop saying if you feel comfortable because everybody's felt comfortable, which has been great. Your Michigan statement and your Common App statement. Do you remember what you wrote about and can you share them with us?
Yes. Yes. So my sister actually is a senior in high school too, not at Harvard Westlake, but I just refreshed my memory on all of this. So my personal statement was about kind of the gray area in life and how growing up things are always very simple. It's like swing your tennis racket, wake up at this time, take this lesson, do this assignment. Everything was just kind of plain told to you, and all you had to do was just do it and do it to the best of your ability. And it was
Yeah,
all very straightforward. And then as I progressed in high school, things obviously got more complicated. So then I used just kind of a bigger reflection of making more complicated life choices and tie that into my work with the Innocence Project, where you're dealing with mail from inmates who are in very gray area situations.
yeah,
If anyone doesn't know what the Innocence Project is, it basically helps exonerate wrongfully convicted people. So, as an intern there, I would read mail from inmates who are trying to prove their innocence. And I was the first kind of wall of defense in determining should this go in the pile where we reconsider or the pile where they're for sure in the wrong. Um, so I tied it into that as well as my work with the ethics bowl team at Harvard Westlake. So I made it this whole piece of right versus wrong and things that are in the gray area and how in college and beyond in life, I'm excited to explore the gray area.
very cool.
Thank you.
Very
And then
cool.
for my Michigan statement, there's two essays. So one is a why Michigan, and then
Hmm.
one was about communities, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
And yeah, it was about communities. I think this was, I mean, there's no way to know, but I think this was the essay that got me into Michigan. And it was all about how basically I was a student ambassador at Harvard Westlake and how from applying there to serving as that student ambassador and became the head student ambassador in ninth grade and 12th grade, I got to show my love of school and my school pride and help introduce other people into that community and how I hope to do the same at Michigan because school pride is huge there.
So you kind of and you really solidified it. It's the same. It's been the same thing you applied almost 5 years ago, and it's been a common theme, particularly at the elite Ivy pluses. It's been the same. I actually shared with the community a bunch of essays, personal statements from accepted students who shared them with me from the schools that you all like to go to or went to, and it just could not be more glaring uh, how your identity impacts the community that you plan on joining, i.e., the college you're applying, and how that's
Mhm.
underlined by some sort of professional experience, either usually the summer junior year experience. It's like the key, like for like all of them. Like that's where it is. So I cannot stress that enough. And you pretty much just solidified, Lawrence, pretty much what you were
Awesome.
what you wrote about. So yeah, that tracks. And then finally, the fifth one, you can give this to us from the perspective of an HW alum and now a Michigan alum also. And so if you could answer for both, that would be great. And then we can get some questions from Chris and Silas and Zenyan if they have any. And then, like I said, a soothing, tranquil closing statement from you for particularly our current seniors who may or may not listen to this in time, but probably need to be talked off the ledge a little bit, as I'm sure you can remember, would be great. So our final question, do you think Harvard Westlake prepared you for Michigan? Do you think Michigan and I guess to some regard Harvard Westlake, do you think they both have prepared you for life after Michigan, i.e., the life that you're living right now?
So, short answer, yes. Longer answer, both Harvard Westlake and Michigan lay out every opportunity to you. There's no limit to any opportunity, and it's especially rare for a high school that anything you want to do, there's some sort of support system, mentorship program, or path to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think a large part of that is being able to take the step and actually ask if you want to do something, how you can do it, take advantage of these opportunities, and really go the extra mile. So, school is as hard and as fulfilling as you make it for yourself. And exactly how I am now, giving back to the Harvard Westlake community. I go to different panels, using all of those kinds of tools really helped me in a college setting because I was used to making a big community feel small. I was used to connecting with different kinds of people. I was used to hard work, and I had a very strong sense of character, which I think Harvard Westlake helps you build because once I was able to go to college, I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel like in high school I was very much babysat and always told what I was supposed to do. A large part of it is figuring it out for yourself. So that helped me tremendously in college. College was, I don't want to say a piece of cake because I definitely challenged myself, but Harvard Westlake prepared me, and I think there were 20 people in my grade. It was a crazy,
Yeah.
crazy year for
Michigan
Harvard
is
Westlake in Michigan, but
Michigan is
we
popular.
all felt that same exact way. Like Harvard Westlake prepared us miles ahead of our peers at Michigan. And then in Michigan, the school has a lot of resources too, but in the same way, you have to be able to know how to use them. I think taking classes is great. It's the same thing as having a good GPA. It's kind of the basis level of what you have to do to get a good job.
Yeah.
But kind of coloring in those experiences through internships, joining clubs, networking. I get emails from Michigan students on the daily asking me to connect them to people at Bank of America. Um, and the
But
Michigan, sorry, Michigan
I did
has
not mean to interrupt you.
an
Go ahead.
alumni network. No, no worries. And Michigan's
That's what I was going
actually,
to say. The Michigan Alumni Network is ridiculous. Brian, you
and
just
the
heard
Harvard Westlake
heard
alumni network.
you heard me say earlier. I have a lot of you all still come back to works to get connected to the Harvard Westlake Alumni Network, and obviously these are major. These are elite academic institutions that you all attend. But the Harvard Westlake Network is strong. Michigan has one of those, right?
Exactly,
Michigan,
exactly,
Harvard, like that wherever you go, there's somebody there, right? That's a Wolverine that's willing to help. I've seen that.
exactly.
Yeah, I've seen that up close, and I've seen that with many Michigan alums.
Hmm. Yeah, and there definitely is, even though it's a Midwest school, even though it has a bigger East Coast presence,
Yeah,
they're actually putting a Ross School of Business in downtown Los Angeles. So they're
makes
starting
sense.
construction on that soon. And they have alumni events all the time, beautiful, amazing events. And I actually got my job. I don't want to say got my job, but one of the recruiters had gone to Michigan. And after I found out that I got the job, she's been such a helpful person to me
Yeah,
throughout my entire experience so far. So both Harvard Westlake and Michigan have this such a strong sense of community and pride that it's with you your whole life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen that not only in the capacity of my job, but just having friends. And I'm 43, having friends who've gone to Michigan and um really seeing that both like I'm like, wow, like the Michigan Alumni Network's ridiculous. Career Services is really good there. And probably similar to Harvard Westlake, you can only be as effective as your alumni network and your parents of
Mhm.
alums, and then of course the reputation of the school. You have people who want to have access to you all. Absolutely.
Mhm.
That was fantastic, Lauren. We're coming on the 3:45 network now. Zenyon has a question, and I'll read it so people can see what it was. Is it correct that Michigan is EA, meaning it's not binding and students can still apply ED?
So when I applied, and as far as I know, it hasn't changed. It was just EA, it wasn't restricted EA. So you can definitely ED to another school and EA to Michigan.
That's probably another reason which makes it so popular as well. You can
Exactly. Yeah, I'd
gives
say
you an opportunity to
two-thirds
be
of my
flexible.
grade at Harvard Westlake applied to Michigan.
Yeah, right. Just because of flexibility and the reputation the prestige the school has. It's one thing about you all. Name brand is big at Harvard Westlake.
Definitely.
That works. Silas or Chris? Any questions? Chris, there we go. Thank you. That was really informative. Did the fact that it's such a big school ever feel overwhelming?
Coming from Harvard Westlake, not at all. I think some people who went to campuses, I wouldn't even say that were smaller in size, but smaller in diversity and breadth, had a more overwhelming time. But I think Michigan does a really good job of offering you communities to be a part of, whether that's social groups, professional groups, academic groups. I was involved in about three of them and made some of my best friends through those communities and always felt like I had a place and a home at Michigan, and not just one, but several.
Hmm. Okay. Zinyan, another question. Are there many HW students, boy in STEM? I'm not sure. Are there many HW boy students in STEM, maybe? Zinyan, you want to clear up your question? I'm not quite sure what it
Yeah,
means trying to get across. Uh-huh. Go ahead.
sure. I just was wondering because if there are any students like a major in STEM and a boy, because that's the hardest ones.
And boy,
I
you
mean,
Um,
said,
yeah, yeah.
Lauren.
Who
yeah,
are like
so
coming from HW and they're in STEM major and boy, because that's harder to apply than if it is a girl, right? That's what my understanding
Oh,
is.
I see.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Um, she's wondering how many are there any male HW students applying for STEM at Michigan? I think that's what she means. I think she's
Or get into Michigan.
okay, so you're saying as applicants, are there
yeah, I
applicants
think
that are
that's what it is.
successfully
Yeah.
admitted? Okay, got
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak to that as much just because I don't necessarily know what a lot of my peers applied as for their major. I know what they ended up choosing. There's also different directions to go in STEM. The engineering school is its own school at Michigan, whereas arts and sciences is more broad. So while I don't think they accept people specifically to majors like they do at other schools, like I didn't apply into the political science major out of high school. I think they just kind of check in and see, do we have people whose interests are across the board? Do we have enough people interested in STEM versus politics versus English versus history? Um, in terms of demographics, I'm not really sure about that, but I, I don't think I think students have the best chance of getting in and applying what they're interested in and what they've done in the past and making that their story. And that's what Michigan will pay attention to most.
Yeah. I
Right.
think yeah, well, we don't have access to that data, Zenyon. I think we probably could get it through Michigan admissions. Um, but what Lauren just said is spot on. Like if you stay true to yourself in your application, let the demographic stuff will figure itself out. Um, especially with the profile that you all have coming out of Harvard Westlake, you're going to be competitive applicants often, and that's why you all maybe should rightfully act the way you do. You're often competing against yourselves. Like you're probably competing against your classmates for these coveted slots. So you can't even think about it that way. Just put your best foot forward. So Silas thanked us. Glad Silas you were able to make the call. No more questions from Zenyon and Chris. So, Lauren, it's going to be your show to close it out. And talk to leave a little something for those precocious, apprehensive seniors right now who think the world is going to end if they don't get into the school that they were born to get into, apparently.
Okay, so I definitely did not go to the school that I thought I was born into going. Um, but I could tell you that, and I could have transferred to that school. I could have switched it up, but I fell in love with Michigan. Not right away, but I'd say a few months in. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I feel so thankful about the way things worked out. And I think that there's two parts to that. One is really having an open perspective and leaning into the culture of wherever you are and seeing it for what it is. These are all amazing schools. You'll get whichever job you want, no matter what school you go to. You'll make friends, whichever school you go to. There's beauty and niches about every single school you go to. And college is very fleeting. It goes by very quickly. So wherever you end up, just enjoy it, make the best of it, and make it your own, and enjoy it before you're in corporate America, which is fun too. But really, really enjoy it. School is amazing, and everyone wants to go back to college. So that should say a lot in itself.
Yeah, yeah. I go back every chance I get. It
Me
gets
too.
yeah, it gets over. And then quickly, you talked about your experience, how you didn't think you'd end up at B of A, and I think you said wealth management. How did
Exactly.
what was your route? Why do you think it was not the straight line A to B to C, which hardly ever happens, and was more the
Exactly.
circuit, which is what happens with almost everybody. No one ends up
Exactly.
they think that they were going to end up doing.
Exactly. And I'm someone who thought I would really always follow a very straight path. Like in high school, I thought I already knew where I was going, what I would major in, where I would live, what my first job would be, and none of that ended up
Yeah.
happening. And I'm so grateful that it didn't end up happening because I think I'm in a much better place now. But I always wanted to be a writer, whether
Mhm.
that was a more serious journalist or a magazine writer or just something relating to writing. That was my passion. That was my biggest strength. That was on the Chronicle, Panorama. It was just my favorite thing to do. And I went to college. I interned for a magazine that I always read growing up as a kid. And I realized it wasn't as glamorous or amazing or
Yeah.
fulfilling as I always thought it would be.
Print work
And
is
there's no
tough.
shame in that. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to try things to either love them or realize they're not for you. So, and not that I didn't love it, but I saw it more as a hobby. And I think that similarly to going to a big school, I wanted to work at a big company out of college. Wealth management is awesome because it's very people oriented, but it's also very educational and very serious as well. And I learn things every single day here. And it's also a very sustainable career. So people who work in wealth management can be here for decades, whereas other careers, it's kind of a more short-term stepping stone to go somewhere else. I feel like within this company, I can really stay and grow and connect with people. And I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren,
Of
for
course.
sharing
Thanks for having me.
your experience, your insight, giving some Michigan love, some HW love. Like it's was a fantastic. Looks like Chris was satisfied. We know Zinyon was satisfied. Silas had to bounce. He was satisfied. So obviously you were great. This recording will be posted probably before midnight tonight. A couple of things that I've got to do beforehand. Um, Lauren is available via the platform. She's available on LinkedIn. You can reach out to her if you're in the high school and you want to reach out to her directly. I'm more than able to connect you via email. Um, yeah, this was unbelievably fantastic. And
Thank you. I had so
now
much fun.
you've got the rest of your Tuesday afternoons to do with as you please. You've done your good deed. All right. So enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.
Zenyon, Chris, Lauren, thank you for your time. This will be, again, everyone, this will be posted in the resources section on the platform. It will be up before midnight tonight. All right. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.